It's a unique industry because no one goes to school to be a boatyard guy. You know, you have to learn it the long hard way. Originally, the Davisons family were half involved with lumber business and the other half with house moving. And then Mr. Davison, right after the Depression in 1932, decided that he'd venture into boat service and boat repairs. And that's how it started. And besides all the woodwork and all that, the paint work, they did a lot of engine restorations. They would, back then boats lasted a lot longer and the motors didn't, so it was a constant. Every 10 years or so you had to redo your engines and so on. And that's where the history of us being not only a boatyard for boat repairs and wooden boats changed into engine repairs and repower people, who eventually then Davison's Boatyard was an engine power center, which is a engine distributor, one of 5 in the country.
Davisons at that time, up until the mid-60s, if it wasn't the biggest boatyard on Long Island, it was probably the most prestigious. But he built this place from scratch. This was an empty lot when he came here, and all these buildings he put up.
Years ago, you had everyone who was specific by trade. Obviously, the owners had to be multifaceted with their stuff, but there was a group of guys that were just painters. You know, there might have been one that did more of the bottom paint, more of the finish work, more of the sanding, but they had specific goals every day to go out and prep a boat, finish a boat, whatever. There was different levels of carpentry. You had your fine carpenter, who did work that had to be varnished and so on, and had to be perfect. And then there was the nuts and bolts underneath the bottom of the boat kind of carpentry. You had to know how to put seams back together, how to caulk a boat, how to put lap streak and rivets back in, and so on.
It was a lot of labor, it was a lot of yelling and shouting. I guess it was a lot of fun. Time went fast, I know that. Certainly not like today.
The great part about it wasn't just wood, it wasn't just paint, it was mechanical, hydraulics. You learned about steering, cables, leverage, you know, moving the boats around. Anyone who's made a living at it realizes that you need to be electrical, plumbing, all the bases, almost like a house except for floats.
The first couple of boats that came out in the late 60s that were fiberglass, we were calling them Clorox bottles. And, you know, that'll never last, you know.
Our average boat then was like 30 to 40 to 42 foot, and that was people who used them for recreation on the weekends, and then maybe the men would take it out fishing on certain times. That's also been a large change in boating. Years ago, I worked every Saturday, Sunday. Every gentleman would come down to meet one of the Davisons, go over their boat, find out if there's a little rot here or something needs to be painted. It was a men's type of organization. Lots of times the women never even went on the boat. It was their boat. And in those days, it wasn't uncommon that somebody worked for you 25, 30 years, you know. Our average employee, even when we had 40 employees, were over 10 years. And a lot of people tend to believe that because we're in the business, we are or should be at odds with the environmental issues. The reality is we're for the environment because that's how we make our living. Cleaner water is better for us. Cleaner seashore is better for us.